So you're starting, I see. Well,
Yeah, that we're, what is that?
Julian gonna be here.
I don't know.
Okay, Amy, if you're ready, I'm gonna start it.
All right, all set. All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This meeting will be video recorded and broadcast over local channel Access 8 and through the town website at www.eastham-ma.gov.
Jackie's trying to steal my identity.
All right, we'll start with public and select board information. We'll start with the board first. Bob? Okay, all right. Anyone from the public, anything that's not on the agenda? Welcome, Mr. Moderator.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. A couple of things I wanted to say hello. We're just over a couple of months out from our annual town meeting, and I just wanted to say hello to the board and the people at home that are watching, and encourage everybody to start to get, if you haven't been participating in the meetings and the organizations and that go on all year long, to get involved so you're up to speed on the issues that the town will be faced upon in May. And just wanted to let everyone know if anybody at home has any questions about procedures and policies that will, govern the day. I'm happy to take any questions, or people can get a hold of me on email addresses on the town website. So I just wanted to say a quick hello and looking forward to working with you. And I'll jump in every couple of weeks between now and May just to see, I'm doing my research, as I imagine everybody else is, to get up to speed on the issues that are going to be in front of us. So I just wanted to do a quick hello and say hello to everybody.
All right, thank you, Scott.
Yeah, no problem.
Hi, at the appropriate time, I'd like to address the RTE again. Joan Lockhart, 120 Steel Road.
It's, yeah, this is the only time because it's not on the agenda.
Okay, great. So I'd like to say that I'm a full-time resident, part-time resident 15 years before, 10 years as a full-time resident now. And I think the decision to adopt the RTE that is not needs-based really assumes that all full-time residents need help and that somehow deserve tax relief, and that all part-time residents are able or should be forced to pay more than their fair share of taxes. It's not Sherwood Forest, and you're not Robin Hood. I think anything that we do needs to look at existing revenue sources, existing programs, and then make sure that whatever we deliver is needs-based. It's not enough to say it feels right or most working class families need the help. We really need the data that supports that. In my neighborhood, almost all the full-timers are retired. They're not working class. My two next-door neighbors, one of whom inherited a family cottage and that was in his family for over 100 years, was forced to sell it recently because he couldn't afford to keep it. And another part-time neighbor who is elderly, 95, goes to Florida for a few months in the winter, is also not a wealthy man. I don't think that 50% of our taxpayers, of our residents, should be forced to subsidize the other 50% of the town. I don't want them subsidizing me. We've ignored the advice of the town manager, the finance director, and assessor, who are all against this. Why does the select board choose to ignore that? We look at other neighboring towns like Provincetown and Wellfleet and Truro, and we say, well, they already have RTEs. I would argue that Eastham is significantly different. We're a town that has long had families coming here to vacation. They've owned cottages for generations. That doesn't make them wealthy. These are people who, they might want to retire here. They've inherited a property, and we're asking them, assuming that they have extra money, to subsidize all of us who live here full time. I just think it's wrong. It feels like our goal is to drive out second homeowners. Our part-time neighbors already pay 50% of our taxes, and they pay the short-term revenue, rental revenue. They're paying more than their share for a much smaller percentage of our services. And it seems like a tremendously unfair division of pitting full-timers against part-timers. It just doesn't feel right to me. Like Amy said, only we're on different sides of the coin this time. I think that, if this passes, people like me who don't need this tax break will take it. And not because I think I deserve it, but because I'm going to take that money and donate it to something that's needs-based. Because I really feel that just doing a blanket tax relief to anybody in town because they're a full-timer is just wrong. So I just wanted to make that clear. I think that there are a lot of people like me, and I think making blanket assumptions that everybody here full-time needs help and that everybody part-time can afford it is just dead wrong. Thank you.
Thanks, Joan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Good evening. My name is Mark Kennard. I am a 10-year resident of Eastham, located at 5 Lee Court. And I'm here as well to briefly outline my opposition to your vote on January 13th to implement the residential tax exemption, or RTE. This vote was a reversal of one taken only 7 days before. Your reversal not only violated your own policy of not considering an RTE until the percentage of part-time residents reached 60, but it was also made against the expert advice of your own Board of Assessors. I strongly support the town's many initiatives to improve infrastructure, education, affordable housing, and to retain a talented and vital local workforce. This RTE does nothing to support any of those worthy goals. It merely shifts the tax burden, imposing additional taxes on part-time residents while reducing taxes for full-time residents regardless of circumstances or need. It does not raise more revenue for the town of Eastham and does nothing to address housing affordability. Eastham has many programs to support us residents, including a family support package, Community Preservation Act funds, and programs to assist veterans, seniors, and the disabled. It is my understanding we have just spent 3 years obtaining state approval for a taxpayer assistance fund to provide targeted help to those in need. It is also my understanding that many of these programs are underutilized and the money remains at this point unspent. As a retired longtime social worker, I understand how difficult it can be for individuals and families in a small community like Eastham to ask for help or to access available programs and services. I would ask that we as a community work together to enable and support easy access to the services needed and to minimize any unnecessary barriers. The funds are there. Let's help people to use them. In closing, I ask you, the members of the Select Board, to reverse your vote again. Let's all support tax assistance that is fair, equitable, means-tested, and gets to those who really need it. The RTE is not the answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have a
Do you have
people
a,
online with their hands
Jeff,
raised.
Jeff Benjamin is the first listed.
Okay.
I will allow him to talk.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak, and I want to thank all of you for your service. My wife, Betsy, our children, and I have been coming to Eastham for over 40 years. First, we rented, and then in 1991, we purchased land and built a home on Ireland Way. And we're there throughout the year, between 12 and 16 weeks every year. And throughout these decades, we and our guests have supported many individual contractors and businesses, including the Friendly Fisherman, Norset Ice Cream, the Superette, the Gift Bond, Sam's Deli, Ace Hardware, bike shops, restaurants. I could go on and on. And we've also given and continue to give to local charities. And we promptly pay our tax bills, which, as I'm sure you're aware, have increased substantially over the years. And we certainly understood when we bought our property that we would be paying a tax equal to that of everyone else who had property of the same value. Even though we would be relying far less, as previously said, than full-time residents on the services those taxes pay for. My wife and I also don't object to paying more taxes to provide financial assistance to help support those truly in need. But as a matter of, deeply held conviction and principle, we oppose a residential tax exemption that would effectively require all part-time residents who do not have the right to vote to subsidize a tax deduction for all permanent residents who have the right to vote, regardless of how much money they have. Requiring this shortfall reimbursement is essentially an added tax only on people not entitled to vote, a classic case, of taxation without representation, a concept whose rejection was a fundamental principle upon which Massachusetts and our country were based. In addition, the reason Ms. Ekman, has given for providing the exemption to every permanent resident who owns property, regardless of need, is that people would feel humiliated if they had to apply for the assistance. But we find that justification for unfair treatment unpersuasive. The town, could certainly establish the requisite criteria, like income and net asset ceilings, and develop a process whereby people could apply privately without risk of publicity. Everyone files tax returns, regardless of how they feel about their income. And they include reasons why they're entitled to credits, and deductions. And as far as feelings are concerned, I just want to share that my wife says that those who support an RTE just don't want us in Eastham here, and that if an RTE is enacted, we should just sell our house and leave. But I would much prefer that we ask the select board to work with full and part-time residents to develop standards and a process whereby assistance can be provided to full-time residents in need that would be reasonable, even if that results in a tax increase, but one that would be fair for everyone. We believe we can do better than an RTE and submit that should be our objective. I want to thank you for your time and patience.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we have Carolyn G. I'm going to promote her to top.
Carolyn G., could you state your full name, please?
Can't hear yet.
Okay, excuse me. Okay, hello?
Hello.
Oh,
Yes, my name is Carolyn Gorska-Thurleman. I've been an Eastham taxpayer since 1989. I do not own another property other than my Eastham home. I would like to briefly comment on a statement the chair of the select board made at the EPRTA member meeting earlier this month. The chair came to this meeting to discuss why she changed her vote in favor of the RTE. She stated, quote, "We're asking those of you fortunate enough to own property in our community, in addition to the one you live in, to pay a little extra to help make it easier for those who choose to reside here year-round," unquote. To look at the little extra part-timers would pay, I'd like to refer to the Town of Eastham Assessor's Office sample data for 35% residential exemption, since this is where we are heading. The interesting thing about the RTE formula is shown in the table in the far right column under the heading Difference Non-Eligible to Eligible. The amount is largely the same for all property values. So with the 35% exemption, and our current residential levy, essentially every part-timer would pay $2,470 more in taxes than every full-timer with a similar property value, regardless of income and need. Now, I do not agree that paying $2,470 more in taxes than a full-timer is a little extra, and this amount will increase over time. But no matter how you look at the numbers, for members of the select board to expect part-time residents to pay a portion of all full-timers' taxes is simply wrong. The RTE is unjust and divisive. Let's not adopt it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. All right, we have one more.
No, that seems to be it.
Oh, we had Bonnie Nuendo was up. Has she left?
I don't see her.
Okay. All right.
We got one more.
Oh, we got one more.
We have a Terry.
Terry.
We're gonna keep.
All right. We'll allow one more. Terry, go ahead and state your name and address, please.
Hi, can you hear me? Because I'm a little.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I'm a little technically blinded here. Terry Tolanar. I live at I live in California and I have a residence part-time and 320 Ireland Way in Eastham. And yeah, I appreciate the time and the intention of the RTE, and it's definitely appreciate everyone's input on the board. As a part-time resident in Eastham, and in some of the remarks that have been made, and I've attended the last several board meetings, there's sort of an assumption that people that have two homes, that own two homes, are financially well off, which is actually, I don't own my homes. The bank owns my homes. And, you know, I don't really see how, as a property taxpayer, it is fair for me to have the responsibility to pay the property tax for somebody with a $1.5 million home in Eastham, when my home is less value. I also echo some of the remarks about how this bill helps people who are not having homes. You know, it's not helping houseless in the community, and there are people that do not have homes in Eastham. I'm very close with my neighbors. I have to say, I've spent several weeks there. I'm from Massachusetts, and my mother is very sick these past few years. And although I'm a part-time resident, we have spent many, many, many weeks there and holidays throughout the year. So I'm not really sure how you define a part-time resident, but my concern is that there's an assumption that people just come in the summer and they, you know, if they decide, or that they're renting out their homes to take the money and lay in the sun and leave, which isn't really true. I'm definitely part of the community, and I'm friends with owners of the businesses in Eastham as well as neighbors. And I don't understand how someone can say, which has been said by the board, I can't afford a home here in Eastham, which is, you know, it took me a lifetime and my family to purchase a home, and we're going on Social Security this year. I'm going to be 65 years old this summer, and this is what we've saved up for. So I guess that's that. I had some more points, but that's really kind of what I want to say. I mean, this idea that a person on the board here is refusing to change their mind after 6 days of flip-flopping, without really hearing from the neighbors who aren't there, and making a decision and paying people to set up for this 6 months in advance. It just, why are you having the vote in August? It seems like you've already made up your mind. So with all due respect, I think that it's much more complex. I would hate to see this put in as something that is that you can't take away, and that you did promise for the 60%. And it's a much more complex issue than rich people that just have two homes. We all have a story, and we all have expenses. And I'm not going to get into my personal medical expenses with my family, but it's just not that black and white. So I appreciate your time and I appreciate your reconsideration in advance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have one more
Yeah,
now.
I see Andrew and yeah, I know him. Go ahead, let him in. Hello, Andrew, welcome.
Hi, I'm a full-time resident. I live at Bridge Road at 355. So I would like to say I think that this is good. I think that we, as much as it doesn't sound pleasant for the people who are part-time residents, as a younger person who lives on the Cape, we are seeing less and less people who are able to do the things that we need to do to function. I work at the swap shop, and we're losing volunteers due to age, but there's not like an increasing population on the Cape. There's a decreasing population on the Cape of able-bodied people. And it's happening, it's affecting some of our businesses. As I know people that own local businesses and say the hiring pool is very tough. I personally have college degrees and I can't really get many jobs with college degree requirements. So I think we need more people in the Cape to sort of stimulate our economy, even if it's people may be coming in for their second act. You can't do that if you're only here for a couple weeks or a couple months of the year. So I personally think that even though it does feel like they're saying they don't want part-time residents, that we do need to encourage more people to live on Cape. And I think that this will help do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
Oh, and Bonnie's back. Okay, then I'm gonna call it after Bonnie. Hello, Bonnie. You're muted.
There, am I okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
There. All right. Listen, this is going to be really short, and I was backing off after hearing some of the folks speak against RTE, because it seems like they had done some research and some homework and had some opinions with some reasons to back those opinions up. My opinion is that as we live here in this expensive place, us year-rounders, with rising costs for heat and energy, with more expensive groceries, although they're bad everywhere now, we can use all the help we could get. I can't believe what my fuel bills have gone up to be, and I do empathize, but if it's a second homeowner, I don't see why somebody who has one home here and then rents for a couple of months down south should be, subjected to increased taxes for that. But if you actually have two homes, doesn't that say something about your economic status? So all I wanted to say is to thank the board for reconsidering, and that I think it's a good thing to have a discussion back and forth, so all viewpoints can be heard. But me, I'm in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on. Appointments. We have our state senator, Julian Sear, and our newly elected state representative, Hadley Luddy. Welcome. Nice to see you both in person.
So nice to be here. Thank you so much. I'm Julian Sear. I have the honor of representing Eastham and 19 communities across Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket. Lifelong Cape Codder, born and raised in Truro, now living in Provincetown. I'm thrilled to be here with Hadley Luddy, who has just hit the ground running, filling very big shoes of Sarah Peak, but doing so ably and wonderfully. I first want to just start by thanking each of you for serving in this capacity. Public service is never easy, but I think it's especially tough at the town level, right? When we may take a tough vote, yeah, maybe someone will find us at Stop and Shop, but when you're on the select board, right, you're getting an earful at the dump, at the superette, and we need good people like you, right, to be just willing to serve. And our communities, Eastham and the entire region, is facing some of the steepest challenges we've faced from a housing market that essentially means that our communities We're going to have to find a way to subsidize housing, not only for people of low income, but for most all year-round working people who don't yet own a home or going to inherit a home. We have multi-millions of dollars in wastewater infrastructure that we have to move forward on to steward our fragile environment, but are going to cost us quite a bit of money. We have geographic isolation, access to healthcare, a myriad of challenges. So I want to thank y'all first and foremost for just serving, for being tremendous partners with us, tremendous partners with Jackie and her whole, and Rich and the whole team here in Eastham. So we have some legislative updates, and I think we want to hear from you. And I think I'm first going to turn this over to Hadley to talk a little bit about some of her priorities and the pieces that she has been working on. We're really fortunate to have our newly minted state representative for the 4th Barnstable District has spent years working on the most urgent, essential issue that we face, right, which is housing. And so it's such a joy to be here with Hadley. She's already hit the ground running. I'm going to turn it over to her, and then I have some updates. And then glad to answer any and all questions, problem solving that you want to get into.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you all so much for having us here tonight. And I echo what Julian said about just thanking you for your service and all that it entails. And I'm thrilled to be here 45 days into the role of a state rep and did indeed hit the ground running, but a lot of learning to do and a lot of work ahead. And I'm really excited to be joining a new class of incoming reps who are very eager to get a lot done and move at a quick pace, if that's possible, at the State House, and really looking forward to some of our key priorities, but obviously also facing lots of challenges. One of the most positive things that I've experienced from day one is working with the Cape and Islands delegation. And I have to say, it's a really great example of a bipartisan group of folks that, while we certainly have some issues that we see differently, we do collectively collaborate around many of them, including most recently mental health issues and priorities around making sure that if anything, we have more mental health resources available in our region than fewer. So that's been really great to see and great to be a part of. For anyone who doesn't know my background, I've basically spent about the last 28 years now working in public and community service and living and raising my family here in the 4th Barnstable. So I'm lucky to know what it's like to live here as a year-round person and all of the wonderful benefits and challenges that we face here. My priorities have been very focused on housing and economic stabilization for our year-round residents of all ages, a real interest in environmental issues, and also a real interest in working with the 7 towns in the 4th Barnstable and really our region in general to see how we can collaborate regionally, where are the opportunities that towns can work together, learn from each other, and just steward good policies and practices going forward. So I look forward to sharing my committee assignments, which I believe I will know at the end of this week, if not sooner. I am pleased to be on the Seasonal Communities Council. That was an official first appointment that came in, which was critical, knowing that the 4th Barnstable plays a key role and has many towns in that designation. So as I learn information, I will be sharing it with all of you and hope there's lots of opportunities there. I'm thrilled to have Grayson Roundtree. For folks that don't know her, she's my legislative aide. Folks may know her from working with Sarah, who she worked with for 3 years. So you can find all of our information available on the Commonwealth website. We do not have an office yet. I'm still in the bullpen, but you can get all of our contact information online. And I just want to let folks know we are regularly holding community office hours. In fact, just last week, Senator Sear and I were in Truro. My next office hours coming up are March 3rd, Monday, March 3rd at the Wellfleet Public Library. We'll be there from 4 to 6 p.m. So I will consistently be out in the community in our 7 towns, going to where people are to try to connect and hear about what your issues and concerns are. And just encourage folks to go to my website, hadleyluddy.com, to sign up for my newsletter, which we will be getting out on a regular basis. I'm going to pass it over to Senator Sear for more legislative updates and policy issues. But thank you again for having me here tonight. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Hadley. So really this last session going into this session, we've been really trying to tackle and bring resources for the big challenges that we face here across Cape Cod and the islands. When I first was elected, we tackled wastewater financing, and I'll get into that. But with the creation of the Cape Cod and Islands Water Protection Fund, this was a very significant policy achievement for us To date, this has provided, what, 257 million in funding to Cape Cod towns, right? Not on taxpayers, property taxpayers, whether you live here year round or just part-time, right? That's a huge amount of savings. Then we've been tackling housing, and we have made a tremendous progress recently in this last session, and I'm hoping that we can keep this up. You know, for context, right? Median home price in Eastham is now north of $829,000. Home values have increased 12.1% in a year. If you are fortunate to own a home, I don't know what other investment you can have, whether it's your primary home or secondary home, where the value of an asset increases by 12% year over year. I mean, quite lucky, quite fortunate. But this is putting tremendous strain on our ability as geographically isolated communities to sustain a year-round population, to provide services for one of the oldest populations and the oldest population in New England, right? It's right here in Barnstable County, especially in the 4th Barnstable District. Challenges with declining school enrollment. How do we welcome the scores of visitors who are coming to our national park and our beaches and our restaurants in the summer, with a dwindling workforce, and all of this really is sort of tied into housing. And so what we did, we had an opportunity when Governor Haley came into office. She really rightly was talking about, with the Lieutenant Governor, a housing crisis that we have here in Massachusetts. We're short about 220,000 housing units across the state that we have not built. And so that means for folks who are not yet fortunate to own a home or are looking for places to rent, it has gotten harder and harder and harder. And that competition, right, that lack of supply has just forced a whole host of pressure all the way down. Massachusetts has seen one of the highest increases of homelessness in the country. So this is a very, very real challenge. We passed the Affordable Homes Act last summer. This is a $5.1 billion investment in housing all across Massachusetts. In addition to the money, there are 50 initiatives to address rising home costs. There's ADUs by right, subject to reasonable restrictions. We worked on some of those issues. There's promotion of green housing development. And most important for us is the establishment of the seasonal communities designation. So we worked basically since my first term to figure out, all right, how do we convey in a policy framework the unique challenges that an Eastham and a Provincetown and a Nantucket and an Oak Bluffs face, you know, given that we have limited geography, we have a fragile natural environment, we have a huge swing in our population, right? And so we designed a framework taking policies that towns like Eastham had asked us to advance to solve the housing crisis. So any town in Barnstable County where 35% or more of the housing stock is seasonal, is seasonally occupied, which is Eastham, is designated automatically as a seasonal community by the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. You'll have an opportunity at Springtown meeting to confirm the designation and come into the designation. And this is all about providing tools to seasonal communities, many of which these were tools that y'all were seeking through the cumbersome home rule process. The ability to have a year-round housing trust where you can subsidize housing above, you know, middle income housing. The ability to provide housing for your municipal employees that if we didn't change the law, you can't do. It's a violation of fair housing and some other Massachusetts statutes. You know, allowing our towns to both purchase year-round deed restrictions on existing homes, to create middle income housing inventory, create year-round housing inventory, and then also to have year-round deed restrictions put on new build. So this is all in seasonal communities. Seasonal communities will now allow Eastham to establish a year-round housing trust. Eastham will now be able to acquire year-round deed restrictions. You'll be allowed to acquire and develop units specifically intended for public employees. Also, housing for artisans and artist housing is included in that. Towns are able under seasonal communities to actually expand their year-round residential property tax exemption. The current ceiling is 35% for a town. I think you folks are deciding to go below that right now. Towns will be able to go up to 50% of their, to rely on RTE up to 50% of the property tax value. This is really foreseeing one of the things we really see in Beacon Hill when we're trying to make the case for things like a transfer fee, right, which Eastham voters have sent a home rule for us to do, or trying to make the case for Chapter 70 funding, or you name the issue, our colleagues take one look at our property tax rates, which compared to, which actually our friends from off Cape will know, our rates here are significantly lower. Actually, the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce has a, just did a little Google of this. Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce actually lists all the property tax values, rates per thousand on Cape Cod. And we are noticeably, almost everyone's below $10 a thousand. Eastham's, I think it's $7.01. I'll let Rich confirm, but right, that they're, this has become a policy issue for us and is part of the challenge when you look at these funding formulas related to Chapter 70 education funding, related to transportation funding, related to the cherry sheets y'all get around your local aid, our competitively low tax rate, which is still a burden for a whole host of folks, it has been sort of a challenge for us. So the legislature thought it made sense for seasonal communities to be able to go ultimately up to a 50% for that residential property tax exemption. I expect you probably won't be using that today, but it's there for you in the future. And then you're enabled to pursue several other common sense zoning bylaws, bylaws around tiny homes, basically ADUs, but doing in cluster development, and also zoning around merger lots and undersized lots. Often we'll have an instance where you'll have sort of 2 or 3 small lots that if they just could all add up, and if you're using it for affordable housing, that's now going to be enabled under seasonal communities. Truro's done this, Dennis has done this. All of the policy proposals in seasonal communities, these are policies that municipalities brought to us, that some municipalities are using. Provincetown and Nantucket have year-round housing trusts they've been using to quite good effect. So we're very encouraged about this, but these are policies that you, our towns, asked us to do, not just things I came up with, right? And so we got that done. This is very significant. It's very significant to have Hadley serving on this advisory council. I represent the Senate on this advisory council. We will be here on Cape Cod listening to Cape Codders and also Islanders about this policy moving forward. But stay tuned. We'll see draft regulations come out. This should enable Eastham to with a whole host of new tools that are going to make a big difference. We still need a dedicated revenue source. If you look at the cost, what it's going to cost us to build and preserve the year-round housing that we need to make this all work, it costs a lot of money. The model we're really relying on comes from the Colorado ski towns, places like Vail, Colorado. 20 years ago, they put in place a transfer fee with year-round deed restrictions. Now about 30% of the housing stock in Vail is year-round deed restricted, is year-round housing, some of it rental, much of it for ownership. The value is significantly less because it can't be short-term rent. The property is not sort of valued on what it rents by the night in July and what it rents for by the night in February and March and January in their ski season, right, versus our summer season. So that's the model we're trying to pursue. We need this transfer fee. Eastham has supported this. We'll ask you to support this again. And very grateful for that. So that is housing. Wastewater, I bet you have some questions on, right? So we are keenly aware that the proposed state revolving loan fund plan for 2025, which has capped annual funding at $50 million and is now requiring yearly reapplications without a carryover. We understand how that could severely disrupt wastewater remediation in Eastham and across Cape Cod. And this really challenges the formula that we laid out in recent years around how we're going to solve the multi-billion-dollar wastewater crisis we have on Cape Cod, relying on SRF to provide significant subsidy, then having the Cape Cod and Islands Water Protection Fund, which provides a 25% subsidy. So we are very much aware of this. The delegation will be submitting a letter, I think probably tomorrow or Wednesday, to the Healy Driscoll administration expressing our real concerns in the 2025 draft IUP. We're going to work to change this. We also will have an environmental bond bill that we will take up this session. The governor will probably file this in April. So that'll be our vehicle to further address wastewater. We really see, and I really see, Eastham's strong commitment to addressing water quality issues. These are expensive but sorely necessary initiatives. I really think back to, I have a friend who serves on the Water Commission in Harwich, and he dug up a letter from like 1982, and it was like, from the federal government. It's like, dear Harwich, like we will pay 90% of your sewer system. And at the time, all these towns received this letter. At the time, we did not pursue that funding. There was a concern around overdevelopment. So this is something we must do. I appreciate this board's real commitment on wastewater. We're going to work to keep on delivering on the financing and specifically with East Ham. So we will be working quite closely on that. We're also keenly mindful of energy prices. I don't know if anyone's seen their electric bills.
It's big mad.
Right. You know, and so this is, you know, these are unaffordable and really unconscionable. I think we're asking some real questions from our utilities about, are these rates truly necessary? Although I will say from an energy analysis perspective, Massachusetts has become increasingly reliant on natural gas. We've used natural gas to power more and more of our electric plants as we've had other sources come offline, right? Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station, which we all worked hard to close, that was about 13% of the energy in the New England grid. We worked hard to close Brayton Point, and you know, right near Fall River, a dirty coal plant. But we're increasingly reliant on natural gas. There's no new pipelines coming into Massachusetts. And by the way, we're now using natural gas more and more to heat our homes. So the competition, the price of natural gas in New England is just astronomically high. We're working hard to bring alternative forms of energy onto the grid. A part of this is Quebec hydropower, which has had delays through some court battles around bringing that power through Maine and New Hampshire. It's moving forward. Part of that's through solar. Part of that's through offshore wind. Offshore wind in particular, I think, is very appealing for us, given the fact that when that energy supply is most efficient is in the winter, right? When we got a lot of storms, when there's a lot of wind, and when our electricity needs are highest. Of course, there's quite a bit of uncertainty on offshore wind and innumerable topics given the current federal administration. But I just want to kind of give this explanation for sort of the broader kind of forces in our energy market that make this really tough. So we're working to get some accountability. There was already an announcement for a 5% decrease in the rate. That to me feels like it falls quite short. But I just want to sort of acknowledge this and that we're working on this, but also explaining until you have hydropower, more offshore wind, more solar, other sources kind of coming into our energy mix here, you know, this is going to remain challenging for us. And then we're working on a myriad of other policy issues. My office has really taken on flood insurance as something that I think Massachusetts needs to spend some good time on. We don't have a mature flood insurance market here in Massachusetts. The FAIR plan that many of us rely on is becoming insufficient. And then the other challenge, right, as the value of our homes increases almost exponentially, the cost to insure those homes increases, right? So we've got two bills that we're working on there. One related to creating a flood insurance market, the other creating a program to incentivize homeowners to make their homes more reliant in the face of climate change and then giving people a discount. I've been leading the Senate on banning forever chemicals, PFAS, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. These are quite ubiquitous. We were able to pass a ban on firefighting gear, turnout gear that was signed into law this summer. We're coming back to get omnibus legislation passed. Primary care is another topic that is high on the legislature's agenda. Senate President talked about this in her beginning of the year speech, that we're going to take up a primary care bill. Just today, we met with our community health centers, like Outer Cape Health Services. You know, they're very concerned about the federal environment. And what a number of cuts, both illegal withholdings and also potential cuts to very significant cuts to Medicaid through this reconciliation process may mean. We're working in close partnership to support them. We've also got some work to do in Massachusetts to make sure they're being adequately reimbursed. Currently now, MassHealth reimburses our community health centers as a higher rate than commercial insurance, which ain't cool. I got a bill to fix it. Other topics, of course, the national park. We have been in close engagement with them. I've really, Jennifer Flynn, the relatively new superintendent, she's awesome. I mean, she has been very accessible, very problem solving oriented. Really grateful for sort of a breath of fresh air working on some tough issues we've got. I know Eastham has those. We've been focusing on broadband access, a little concerned about whether or not they'll be able to have hire their seasonal employees. Route 6, of course, is always a big topic. Eastham is going to be on deck in I think after Wellfleet and then Truro for repaving, probably talking, quite a ways out, but I know there's lots of ideas in Eastham how we have a better partnership with MassDOT, how we work together. I've seen the really remarkable and thorough planning process that Eastham is engaged with, particularly in the North Eastham corridor. That's really impressive. We want to support that. And glad to discuss and talk about any issue, challenge that you need partnership on. So much of what we do in Massachusetts, given our home rule, right? Given the way the state is structured with 351 distinct municipalities, so much of what y'all want to do flows through us on Beacon Hill, and so much of what we pass into law and implement is really implemented by all of you. So close partnership is really key. I'll also give a plug if you want to see what I'm up to. We have a very extensive, thorough newsletter that we put out each and every month. It is exhaustive, but really, I think wanting to be very transparent about what I'm up to. And you can, if you're curious, follow along at senatorsear.com.
All right. Questions from the board? Jamie.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. This was really helpful, just hearing what you both had to say. I just have 3 questions. First is really straightforward. You mentioned the community hours on March 3rd, Monday from 4 to 6 at the Wellfleet Library?
Yes.
Okay, great. Just want to make sure I had that right. Next was the transfer fee. I know that that's, still on your radar, which is fantastic. Is there anything that we can do to help further support this?
Yes. Pass the home rule again. Get your friends in all our other Cape Towns to pass this home rule. We got a lot closer than even was reported in the press in getting this done. And really that this fell apart, not just around opposition to it, but in part due to some internal dynamics between the House and the Senate. Which I think for our purposes is good, right? I want another bite at the apple. The case I'm trying to make, and I think we're trying to make, is that we have a housing crisis across Massachusetts, but what we're dealing with here is is quite unique and different, right? Our real estate market here, is valued based on what a home or a cottage or a shack or a condo rents for by the night in July and August. And that is often far above the means of year-round working people, even year-round working people who make a good, healthy salary. And then if you even can qualify to purchase a home here or can find a good year-round rental, right? You're competing with so many other people. And in the homeownership market, you're competing against people who have, who are fully financed, cash only offers, right? All those sort of things, right? Local people have been and will continue to lose out. And so this is where, I think on transfer fee, this just makes so much sense. I mean, we basically have a luxury real estate market. That's what it is. 80+% of our transactions are second, third, fourth homes. Folks are willing, and plenty of other localities have this in place, right? This is not a novel progressive policy. This is in, dozens of states, dozens of cities across the country. And I think the way we've structured the bill provides exemptions for first-time home buyers, if folks are downsizing who've been longtime residents, nonprofits, a whole host of kind of other things that we can tailor this to work. Without this revenue source, and I should say this, to get transfer fee, we do also need to, I think, demonstrate to Beacon Hill that our towns are already deploying all of the resources that we have towards housing, right? And so, if you have local option room occupancy dollars, are those dedicated, to a specific, stream or fund that's just going to housing, or maybe an infrastructure project like wastewater that ties into housing? CPA funding, are we maxing out our CPA funding to housing? Or are we just doing the 10% for housing that's required, right? That's the other way that we're going to be able to build the case for a transfer fee. The critics of the transfer fee say, well, CPA isn't even being maximized. Towns haven't even dedicated certain revenue stream, have dedicated revenue streams for housing. So I think doing that will help us also make the case. But our goal is really to have most all of the communities in our districts support been on the record at town meeting supporting a transfer fee. That's already happened in the Cape and Islands district. Nantucket has done this. All six towns in Martha's Vineyard have passed transfer fee. Provincetown, Truro, Wellfleet, Eastham, now you folks. I think we're going to see Orleans and Brewster come on. And so I think that really helps us make the case, even if we can't get. I heard very few colleagues who had qualms with us doing this. The opposition's really about the sort of greater Boston sort of real estate lobby interests. And I think there's some sort of understanding that we're a little different down here.
Right.
And so we're trying to make the case to do that, and having these home rules, as well as having dedicated funding streams and basically showing we're doing everything we can on housing, and it's still not enough, will make the difference. Do you have thoughts on this?
No, I just think please support it. And we appreciate you asking the question to see if we can get everyone behind it.
Would it even be worth tying to seasonal communities, or would it strictly?
You might be giving away my legislative strategy. Actually,
That's fine.
Hadley and I actually filed I filed several transfer fee bills, but the bill we filed together essentially says if you're a seasonal community, then you can have a transfer fee. So hence the goal of having
The designation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, and I'll ask my third question real quick because I know I'm taking up a lot of time. The Municipal Empowerment Act is coming on and kind of ties into the concept of the transfer fee or some of the local option taxes that are part of that I thought were really robust for communities like this, because like the transfer fee, it's an optional fund stream. I like to think of it as like an enclosed fund stream, right? It's not dependent on federal government right now, which I think is important. It's important, it helps us stay sustainable as a community. And so, just, speaking and advocating for those local option taxes, transfer fee, all of those things I think are just so imperative for seasonal communities in spaces like Eastham. So thank you for being a part of all of that. Yeah.
We'll do our best to support it. We
Absolutely.
it kind of ran on a runway last session,
Yes.
but there's a lot of good things in there that just make some good sense. So.
Yes,
We have a letter here to
support it.
get to you, support.
Okay.
Great.
Good.
Suzanne?
Okay, I have maybe, I guess, a couple statements and a question. One regarding Eastham and wastewater, if you could convey to the powers that be that it is a really critical component of us doing our part to increase housing stock and to give basically the private market more opportunity to build appropriate housing in Eastham, and that I don't think it's going to be as attractive if everybody has to put in a little tiny package plant. So you probably already know that, but please send our regards since it seems to be a priority for the state and the governor. We're really.
This is why wastewater was my number one priority when I came in, right? And when I was first elected and started in 2017, because if you can't get wastewater, then there's no way in hell we'll be able to build the year-round housing we need to sustain, so it's all tied together. We've had very good partnership with the state on financing. I think this draft IUP is a bit of a hiccup that we'll fix.
Okay. I would also like possibly a statement from the governor on how she plans to protect our vulnerable communities in Massachusetts in the event that federal funding is withheld from the state, especially around things for LGBTQ people, healthcare, access to healthcare. And I don't know if she's made a statement yet or plans to, but I would really love some guidance on that, because I feel like it's a matter of time before the feds are like, nope, we're just gonna not. And I think Outer Cape Health Services receives federal money, but federal funding, and they are a massive provider of healthcare on Cape or in our area.
Suzanne, I was actually on a call with the governor today, and she was giving a recap of, she'd just been at the governor's meeting, right, in DC. And I think our commitment in Massachusetts is that, we're not going to change who we are here, right? We're not, these are values that are non-negotiable. And we've already taken steps to protect access to gender affirming care, protect access to abortion care. I'm really proud to have been part of the team of senators that wrote our SHIELD law in Massachusetts that says that access to abortion care, access to gender affirming care is a right protected under our Constitution, that the providers of this care are protected. There's a number of regulatory actions that have actually occurred or occurring right now to strengthen strengthen the legal bolts on all of that. And then we're actively figuring out ways around how we navigate perhaps a Hyde amendment on gender affirming care, right? Or relating to access to HIV care. I was talking to the head of Fenway Health just this afternoon. We were meeting with Damian Archer. We will do everything in our power to protect access to this care. The good news is this care is like primary care, right? When you look at healthcare costs, access to reproductive health care, access to gender affirming care, this is basic primary care, right? This is not, so I think this is a cost I think we're looking to come into. We're going to try to figure out mechanisms and ways to do this. And I can tell you as an LGBTQ person and as someone who has many LGBTQ people in my life, we will not be bullied by a hateful and vengeful federal government who essentially has decided to attack the smallest, most vulnerable population we have in this country.
Yeah.
To paraphrase Laverne Cox, right? It's a brilliant trans woman, right? The reason why the price of eggs isn't trans folk, right? The reason why you can't buy a house, the reason why, we're really living this, we're really feeling this. I can tell you the governor has our back. Also, we have a day of visibility, a day of love in the works coming at the State House. So stay tuned. Would love to have anyone join that.
Cute that I feel sometimes I do need a pep talk from other people.
Sometimes we do too.
And then
got it.
I had in conversations with some other people. So the Prop 2.5% is, it's not that I want to be able to raise people's taxes more than 2.5% every year. And people don't quite understand why we keep having overrides. And there's some frustration around this, and I know you've heard this, but I am wondering, I heard that you're maybe working on it. And again, not because I want to be able to raise people's taxes a whole bunch, but 2.5% gets gobbled up by cost of living or
Yeah.
insurance rates.
It's particularly hard in this inflationary environment, right? It's been a real challenge. I'll say the first thing I ever did, got involved. You know how I got involved in politics? I was a junior at Nassau Regional High School, and we had really big budget cuts. This is in 2003, and they're going to have to eliminate like 40 teaching positions and staff if like the district didn't pass an override. So I was part of a group of students that went out and like made the case, and we were shameless, the honors course reformed at town meeting or something. And the override passed, and it was just, really powerful, clearly experience for me and a bunch of us, and, kind of realized like, hey, I can step out into my community and instigate change. But, not every override has, cute high school students singing to convince taxpayers to support it. And, this has been a real challenge. I think we acknowledge that. Maybe we'll see what can be done. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not super.
I'm not
thrilled.
familiar with any significant efforts to sort of change it, but actually, when we debate the Municipal Empowerment Act, right, that could be something y'all could bring up.
Well, I guess in the thing that commonly comes up is our schools seem to be triggering it a lot, and especially special education. And I think that everyone deserves to receive an education, whether it's here or out of district. But it is really challenging to pay for that, and we've come up with the stabilization fund that's in the warrants. Did we?
Well, I think we'll do it.
This warrant?
Yeah, we did an override last year, and then depending on what this year's came out at, if we have extra, then we'll
Make the stabilization.
start
Yeah.
stabilization
So
fund.
we're
for it.
working, we're working on it, but it's a small town and it's a lot of money and
Indeed.
it comes out of nowhere and there's only so much planning we can do. And, this goes to like, oh, we have the money as a nation and it just doesn't make it down to this.
Yeah, I think on special education, Eastham needs more, towns like us need more help from the state. I mean, you suddenly have one or two students that have to go off Cape and you're looking at $200,000-$300,000 per student. I mean, we owe that child an education, absolutely. But that's a lot for a town of 5,000 to cover. And I think we have 2 or 3 of those as we look at it, just within just Eastham. And then it switches off to the Nauset Regional School System, which hits then 4 towns trying to do it. So I don't know if there's a way I can't imagine that Boston doesn't have a problem with that as well. And looking at special education.
Yeah.
They maybe don't have to transport as much. They don't have to go over the bridge every day, but I think that's something we've been hit by that hard and causing us to go with an override just for that. And that's something if you can look at to try and see if you can help small towns with that, that would be great.
Are you able to access the special education circuit breaker? Yeah. Okay, so
After the fact.
after the fact,
Yeah.
yeah, I know, which is, so both with sped circuit breaker and also regional school transportation circuit breaker as well. We've been funding those at high levels. There's a sort of mixed revenue picture. But the good news is where the revenue is most strong is through the fair share amendment, right? This was the having millionaires and folks who have a certain income pay their fair share. We had estimated that would generate about $1 billion a year. It's on track this fiscal year to generate $1.9 billion. So we're gonna have a significant a significant surplus that we're gonna be able to deploy for education and then transportation. I think part of that is funneling more resources into sped circuit breaker. Yes, it's after the fact, which can be a headache, but is certainly a savings. The other thing I'm really keen on figuring out is how do we support our collaboratives. We have the Cape Cod Collaborative, right, which is how we pool a lot of our special ed resources. These collaboratives haven't been able to access resources from the state around facilities, around a lot of their costs, and trying to figure that out. We're going to have, I think, an opportunity to spend some of these dollars in education. So I think more help may be on the way specifically there because of the Fair Share Amendment, thanks to the voters of Massachusetts who passed it.
Any help is appreciated.
Yeah.
And increasing that capacity locally would be really great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both very much for coming.
Thank
And,
you.
You will definitely hear from us on a multitude of issues throughout your time, I'm
Terrific.
sure.
And I would say if there's an issue that is going on, you want us to know about, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. I think all of you have my personal number. I'll make sure you'll have, please, for some of the new members of the board, if you don't have it, do not hesitate to reach out to us.
Absolutely.
We represent big districts. It's really helpful to get feedback from those of you who are serving. And thank you for your service. Thank you for your courage. And we'll be back soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, administrative matters. We have an open meeting law complaint that we need to deal with. Jackie, I'll let you start.
Okay, so basically, we placed the open meeting law complaint on the agenda for tonight's meeting. It was filed on the 12th by Tom McNamara. And he is alleging, do you want me to read the whole thing? Should I read it? Or he's alleging a violation occurred on the January 6th and 7th meeting. At the January 6th Select Board meeting, a non-binding vote was taken 3-2 to refrain from implementing the RTE. And less than 24 hours later, Chair Ekman unexpectedly reversed her vote, resulting in a revote on January 13th. What they're alleging is that on the January 6th meeting, she and Jamie Dimitri conferred in the hallway, basically. While outside in the hallway, separate the public meeting, and perhaps the following day, they continued their discussion in violation of the open meeting law against deliberation by a body. And then the other issue is there was pressure applied to Ms. Ekman subsequent to the meeting that caused her to change her mind. And the third section is that the January 3rd agenda item on the RTE, 13th, I'm sorry, agenda item on the RTE was unexpected, and despite being published on time, the participants, including Tom, were not notified via personal email or given the opportunity for public comment on the January 13th, as they had been on the 6th. So I suggest to you that we have 3 issues in this to deal with, and if we just go through them one at a time. So on January 6th, Amy Ekman spoke to Jamie Dimitri in the hallway during the short break after the licensing issue, which constituted a violation of the open meeting law.
Well, I was in the hallway for 30 minutes or so after the RTE vote, and because I had to recuse myself from the following issue. And I didn't even remember Jamie coming in the hallway. And so I looked at the video recording, and there was 46 seconds after the licensing issue when Jamie went out to the hallway to go to the bathroom and said that she would get me until I came in the other door. It was 46 seconds. We did not discuss the RTE. I think I asked her how it went with Barbara and Willie's, and that was it. She went to the bathroom and I came in. So there was no discussion. And even if there had been, it's 2 of us. So there's no violation. And the vote for that was over. Then the next issue was that pressure was applied to me. I talked to no one after the meeting. Like after the meeting ended, I made a comment to Jamie and to Jackie that was the last time I was going to vote against the RTE when the meeting was over, before I went home. And I spoke to no one else on the board. I spoke to no members of the public. The only people I spoke to were Jamie. I called her to tell her I was going to change my vote. I came in and met Jackie when she came in the door the next morning. She was a little startled. And then I was going to change my vote, and I wanted to put it on the agenda for the next Monday rather than wait a month or more, because I knew the sooner we knew that we were going to have the RTE implement in August, the better. And that was it. She let Jerry and Bob and Suzanne know before the meeting, so they wouldn't be too surprised, because it was on the agenda as RTE follow-up, because I couldn't talk to them. So there was no deliberation, there was no pressure, there was no discussion.
And then the last issue would be the meeting of 113. I mean, I can deal with this. It was duly posted, and the agenda clearly noted that the residential tax exemption was going to be discussed. The board and the town are not required to individually notify residents when we're discussing an issue. That is the point of having an agenda that's posted before meetings. And on the 1-6 agenda, at that meeting, the board, we had over an hour of discussion where everyone in the audience or on Zoom was allowed to speak. So that's not an open meeting law violation.
Jerry?
Yeah, I just want to, you all know that I voted against the RTE and so forth, but we had a meeting we have a meeting on Wednesday before a board meeting, the chairman, myself and Jackie, sometimes Rich, to go over the agenda. So on January 8th in the morning, here in Town Hall, Amy, Jackie and I can't remember if Rich was there or not, had our meeting on the agenda. We did not discuss at all the RTE. It wasn't on what we went through looking at the agenda for January 13th was there. So Amy, what you said is true. I had no discussions on RTE with you. I had discussions on the rest of the agenda. And then the only other discussion we had was at the meeting on the 13th. So I just wanted to emphasize the fact that although I disagree with the change, Amy did not discuss it with me at all after January 6th.
If you want to say something, you can. If not, I will.
It'll be a little redundant, but I guess I'll just respond to 1 and 2. You know, the first was that after the licensure portion of the meeting, I got up and I went to the bathroom because I drink a lot of water in meetings. Sometimes they're lengthy and it's just, it happens. I think I had mentioned that you can go back in. I think I had said I was going to let you, when I was going, you asked if I would let you know when it was time to go back in because you had stepped out. And then the next day I got a call in the morning. Amy explained her sentiments and that was it.
Yeah.
And I have turned over my text to.
Yeah, and I was chairing at the time the licensing, and you were
Yes.
going out. I said, "Would get Amy, tell her
Yeah.
to come in so
Yeah.
that we could keep this." It was a long meeting. We can keep it going, and so I did say that.
And then there's one other piece. The second allegation is that pressure was applied to you by not only Jamie, but other members of the public to change your vote. And that it's not clear to me how that could possibly be viewed as an open meeting law violation, considering that it is entirely appropriate for elected officials to discuss issues with constituents. And it's also appropriate to take into account what your constituents think before you vote on town issues. So I think the chairman has allowed everyone to comment one way or the other and would still, if people email Amy or email me, we always respond. So I think that that is clearly not an open meeting law violation. It's really just good democracy.
So you'll have council draft up a
Yep.
response with what we've stated and
Make one
that'll be
note.
that.
If people are interested in having our agendas delivered to their personal email, they can go on the website and sign up
Yep.
via Notify Me and select board, and then you will get sent our agendas when they are posted. And also, if the select board isn't your favorite committee, you can sign up for a different committee and get their agendas
And they
straight,
have to be posted 48 hours
straight to your inbox.
before the meeting, not including weekends.
Mhm.
So. All right.
Do you need a
I don't think we need any kind
a
of
vote to dispense on this, or what? What does the
You
lawyer
can, I guess
need?
the important question what would be to the rest of the board members, does anyone see any open meeting law violations that we don't see?
Well, I don't.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
So I think we're good.
All right. Thank you. All right, next, fertilizer and reduction home rule petition. This is similar, I believe, to the pesticide reduction that we put forth last year, and we're going to put forth again this year since they're home rule petitions.
Is this a petition that?
Yeah, Laura
filed?
Kelly filed it. She was the same person who filed
Did we put the Orleans version in your packet? I think we did.
Yeah. So we have all the information. want to thank Laura for doing this. I know she's been pretty active in a lot of the Cape towns to run around and try to get this on warrants, and it will be on our warrant. And look forward to voting on it in May.
Okay, and basically it is a piece of special legislation Orleans has, so we'll do both. We'll do the warrant article and then there'll be a piece of special legislation attached to it. Okay.
And will it, when we discuss the warrant, we'll do our vote on the
Yes.
recommendation.
At that time,
Yes.
yeah. All right, next we close the town warrant. So we need a vote to close the town warrant.
I move that we close the town warrant for the May 5th, 2025 town meeting.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, town warrant is closed. That's to petitioned articles. We can always add things last minute.
Right. That's for
If we have the bandwidth to do so. All right, accept library donation. This is pretty exciting.
Yeah, nice.
Peter Buffington's estate. Jerry, do you mind reading this?
Reading,
It's a little hard with one.
where is it? Sarah? Which one? This one right here?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, that the Eastham Public Library has been designated as a charitable beneficiary of a generous donation in the amount of $60,682 from the Peter Buffington Trust. All trust documents are on file for review. To finalize the acceptance of this gift, please, the request is to adopt the following motion. I move to accept the gift of $60,682 from the Peter Buffington Trust and authorize the town manager to execute the release and indemnity instrument waiving formal accounting agreements. Upon approval, the necessary documents will be signed and submitted to complete the donation process. They ask if there's anything else needed.
All right, so that was a formal motion.
second.
There's a second. Any more discussion on this? Anything else we need to?
Nope.
No, the release documents to release Joanna, who's in charge. I mean, she has a fiduciary duty to do it correctly. Are from my experience, fairly normal, so they didn't raise any major issue with me. Actually,
Right.
didn't raise any issue with me.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0.
Spend it wisely, Mary. Not that I'm aware of.
So.
No.
Mary, how much did the roof cost?
Well, yeah. Trustees.
All right. What's next?
All right, next we have CVEC solar renewal agreement.
Gonna happen.
Do you have those or did Kayla put those in the signature file?
Not see that in the signature file, no.
Is that? Okay, sorry.
All right.
I can summarize it if you'd like.
Yeah, so here they are.
So,
Oh, the CVEC?
Yeah, it's just,
CVEC's here.
Rich can summarize it as you
You
sign
don't
it.
have
Okay.
to sign it. It's
No,
the
Jackie
town
just
manager.
needs.
Oh, I just need,
Town
Need a
manager.
vote.
sorry.
But essentially, I apologize, it's not in the packet. I thought it had been, but our solar agreements for the Eastham Elementary School roof solar array
Keep it
and
there.
the DPW roof solar array are expiring at the end of this month. It's been a chore to get them renewed through a solar provider, so that's why this is so late at this point. But essentially, one of the things we had, just so you know, we had considered not doing the DPW solar because of potential of wastewater. But even if we do move forward with wastewater, there's no relocation of the DPW for phase
That's just
one.
on the building one.
It's on the
Yeah.
building, yeah.
Oh, it's not the big.
Not the landfill.
Not the
no.
landfill.
When I say DPW, I'm talking about the rooftop on the DPW building. So anyway, that's not an issue. Even if we move forward, it's for phase one, the DPW is not moving. So we've got 2 expiring leases. We decided 5 years is an appropriate time. And I reached out to Climate Action Committee, Tom, and we'll work with them over the next several years to see what the next step, next iteration of this may be time to do something different or redeploy a new array. But right now, at the moment, with the time of being of the essence, we thought 5 years was appropriate.
All right. So what does our vote need to be that we,
To execute the,
To allow me
authorize the town manager to execute a power purchase agreement.
power purchase agreement.
All right, I move that we authorize the town manager to exercise the power purchase agreement with
CVEC.
CVEC.
Second?
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. All right, Municipal Empowerment Act.
Is-
Jamie wrote a great letter. I believe it was circulated.
Yes.
Yeah, it should have been in the packet.
See it?
They sent it separately, got sent out this morning.
Yeah, she sent it email
I didn't see it.
today.
Let me see if I have it
I
here.
didn't see
We didn't
it.
have hard copies.
Yeah, I thought there was gonna be a hard copy.
Yeah.
I had some hard copies.
Do you have hard
We
copy?
need to sign it. Here.
There's the one hard copy to sign.
There is a hard copy?
Yeah, I guess that's all I had is
Isn't
the
that what we
one.
had? Didn't we
Oh.
sign it?
Yeah, that,
Is it under here?
Oh,
Is it?
no, this is the,
How about this one?
here it is.
Oh,
it was buried in the
I'm
sign.
hiding it.
Agenda.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, looks good.
What are we doing here? I'm glad.
Look at us.
I know. Geez, motley crew here.
Yes, my glasses are broken.
Paper clips out. you know.
Oh, is that why the
Yeah.
That's why they went
I'm so
flying.
sorry. I
Oh,
thought you were
it's
just
okay.
throwing it at me here.
No, I was not throwing at it.
Right?
All right, this is just endorsing. So what do we have to approve? You're looking for
Yeah.
So
Is it fair to
basically
say?
approval by the board to sign the letter and then send it in.
Endorsing the Municipal
Empowerment Act with a focus on the local
This is something else. I've got
Let's
something
focus, I mentioned the local option taxes as
Right.
being beneficial because they're
yeah.
an option.
actually talking.
We don't have to do
Um,
them.
Yeah.
It's,
It's interesting.
among other
Both
things in
that
the municipal act agreement that were beneficial for
Means test.
Eastham.
And you don't have to vote on this tonight. I mean, it's been in the works for a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
but if people aren't comfortable. we can always-
I'm not,
AMI or something.
is, you guys want to read that?
Oh, I
before we-
just did in a little tiny print on my phone, yeah.
Bob, did you see?
Yeah, I saw it.
You saw, okay,
Saw it?
okay.
I don't have any.
I saw it. I read up on it on the internet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Noticed that there was a means test for property tax exemption for seniors.
yes.
If you were aware.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we saw that.
Well, I move who's gonna sign?
All of us.
All of us? Well, I move we approve the letter of, to, Governor Healy's office, endorsing the Municipal Empowerment Act and Chapter 90 bill.
Second.
All right, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. All right, we have a committee resignation. Steve Smith from the Forest Advisory Committee.
Served for a long time.
Yeah.
I move we accept with gratitude, the resignation of Steve Smith from the Forest Advisory.
Second?
Any discussion? You'll write a nice letter, Jerry? All
I'll write another letter, yes.
right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. All right, town managers report.
So I had a few items, but I have one additional item that I think is going to make you guys very happy. I know, it's
Okay.
good news.
We need it.
So one of our employees, Mira, has been working very hard this winter, and we think that we are going to be able to execute a farmer's market,
Oh,
right?
Wow.
See,
Very
at tea
nice.
time,
Oh, great.
Fantastic.
Friday mornings from 9 to 12. We're going to start in June, the 20th of June, and probably end just after Labor Day for the first year to see how it goes. We will be bringing some draft regulations to your meeting next week so that you'll get to see those because we want to get it out and advertise so we can start getting our vendors.
What, 9 to noon, you said?
I think either 8 to 12 or 9 to
Okay.
12. I can't,
Okay.
I think 8 to 12.
Oh, wow,
actually.
that's great. Starting in
Every
June.
Friday, starting in June.
Excellent.
So
Every what day? I'm sorry.
every Friday,
Friday.
Wait, what time again? Because
8 to 12.
Well, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
See, so that's a good piece of news.
Yes.
Thank
You're
you.
going to be able
Always
to, we
welcome.
hope to be able to take SNAP benefits and all that stuff.
Imagine
too.
turnips at the Eastham Farmers Market.
I know, wouldn't that be amazing?
The dream.
The dream.
It's the dream.
All right.
There'll also be on the farmer's market, there'll be a community table that people will be able to, because I see some community people out there that do a lot. But we could have like Hillary, our health agent wants to do some, we have some food programs she wants to talk about, but also the food pantry, anything that's available in the community, we can advertise at that table. So
Great.
Nice.
All right, new upcoming agenda items that need follow-up. Anyone have anything specific? No.
I had just a couple things. Do we have a home rule for the transfer fee for this?
yeah, we have the version that Provincetown did.
Great.
And so I've just, I think we'll just put it in the warrant, in the draft warrant, and then you can take a look at it when you see it.
Okay, and then the other thing I want to mention, there's a letter, an email we had received from a resident that addressed Worcester identifying as a sanctuary city for trans and gender diverse people. So this kind of ties into that like safe community sanctuary city designation. I think the Eastham had voted for in 2017, which had more of an immigration lean.
Mhm.
This kind of is a growth of that concept,
Expansion.
expansion of that concept. And so they were curious if we would consider also looking at that. And so, I want to just make sure that.
I mean, I can tell you that we've certainly discussed this with Adam Bohannon, our police chief, and we are a sanctuary town in terms of we are not going to take any action against anyone unless they're committing a crime. And if they have committed a crime against a person of transgender or, then we would be charging the person who's committing the crime. So, we're safe in that sense. And that's really his position all along with immigration or with this. But if we can, I don't know if you want to, was it a select council vote?
It was
or
a
city
council
council?
vote. It was city council, but our original designation was the town meeting vote.
Yeah.
So I don't know if where this would fall, if this would be like a select board thing, or if this would go to town meeting also as an extension of. Something we could think about. Okay.
Yeah. One of if people are interested, go to the finance committee meeting of two weeks ago. Adam was there and was asked specifically, I can't remember by whom, but asked specifically about ICE and Sanctuary City, what they would do. You asked it, Mary Shaw asked it. Okay. I'll give you a cheer there. And his response was excellent. It just says what the police are, where it's at. So any citizen of Eastham should go look at that. Finance committee meeting of 2 weeks ago. I can't remember the exact date. But
was
that's like a
Thursday night,
Thursday.
yeah.
It's a Thursday night. Thursday, February 13th. It was just.
It was a Monday. Or
No.
no, it wasn't. Sorry.
It was an excellent response and it's
January.
worth listening to if you're interested in it.
Okay.
And the fire chief is going to be coming at your meeting next week to talk about Bob's issue, fire in general, fighting fires in the park.
How about like just disaster recovery, that kind of stuff?
Sure, we
That's
can-
really what we would do in the business, right? We would practice it.
So I'm sorry, I misunderstood you.
No,
I
it's
thought
fine.
you
It's
were.
it's a broader, to me, it could be fire, water, it could be anything.
So I'm sorry, the emergency response is the police chief, Adam
yeah.
Bohannon. So he's our emergency management and we do have tabletop drills. We do
Yeah,
participate in Barnstable
that's all I
County.
was asking. What happens if
Oh, I thought you were asking about fire.
Well,
in
asking
particular.
as including fire, that was
Yeah.
kind of a wildfire.
Well, Lisa's going to talk to you about fire next Monday, and I can see if we can add Adam to talk
And he could
about
talk about the CERT
emergency
team too.
management.
Yeah, the CERT team might be
Emergency
another time, a
response.
reminder.
Yeah.
I just think it's great to refresh, first of all, it's a refresher for you, but it's new to me.
Right.
So
No, that's
I-
a good
And
point.
it's a good time of year to talk about it, so.
Right. Yeah,
Good.
because the CERT team does so much, not just,
Right.
or, not just emergency.
We all learned about
Right, they
disaster.
can do everything, yeah. I mean, they help out at town meeting, yeah.
Super.
Right,
And
great.
I think when there was a tabletop, you have an option to, can he, I feel like I got invited to one.
Oh, yeah, we all went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Next one they have,
I
I'm
did
sure
it,
we'll all
yes.
go.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
those
neat.
are
It
great.
was
The
very
county,
great.
the county usually runs them and,
Yeah, it was like
superb.
2 years ago. I feel
Yeah.
like.
All right, minutes. We have August 5th, 2024, which was a Monday, regular session. I think they got lost in the shuffle somewhere.
So it won't be displayed. Why am I having trouble with this?
Yeah. Put my glasses back.
Yeah, I want to hear more.
I've got August 5th, it says here.
Yeah, August 5th,
5th.
2024,
Okay.
and February 3rd, 2025. Those are our 2
Yes.
minutes.
Well,
Hit me with some motions.
I move that we accept the minutes as written for August 5th, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 5-0.
Let me try and find.
February 3rd.
Gotta find. There it is.
Add more time.
Yeah, I move we accept the minutes for February 3rd, 2025.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. Any other business or correspondence?
Yeah.
Well, I had some questions about Jackie's report.
Oh, you did? Go ahead.
Sorry,
We have the wastewater, you have the wastewater,
Mhm.
and it says written testimony will be accepted until March 3rd. Is this something that we should,
So we had a rehearsal today, basically. So Eastham has actually 2 parts. There's 2 parts to this. We have to get more points, and we have to challenge their determination of our 4 points under the red line to get funded. So the consultants basically have gone through the proposal and the places where we didn't get points and where we should have gotten points. And so she's putting together that package, and Rich is sending her some info, and Hillary. And so we're working on that. So that's going to go, it's called a supplemental package that will be submitted to them so that they will review our application and see if we are worthy of getting some more points. In addition to that, we'll be sending a letter by email on that date as written testimony that, we, with all of our reasons in opposition of their begging them to change their funding decisions. Okay, so that'll be those 2 pieces. The Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund Board met today, and we voted to send a letter, and the letter will basically say 3 things. We were not ever told that they were going to eliminate the multi-year funding. We were not ever told that they were going to cap the projects to $50 million. And that makes the projects very unfeasible economically for all the Cape Towns. And then I asked them specifically to add that this year is the first year that Tier 5, which is Cape and Islands, we get special treatment because we're under a regulatory consent order that we have to do wastewater, right? So Tier 5 projects get funded first. This is the first year in the history of the SRF that Tier 5 projects have not all been funded. And there's 4 of them on the Cape that haven't been funded. Eastham is one of those. So the board agreed to add that to their letter. So that's going, and Kevin Galligan will be signing that on behalf of the Cape and Islands Water Protection Board. What they're also saying is that all the town managers should sign up for it and either send a letter or be ready to speak. It is only an hour long. Talk about transparency and open meeting law. We have an hour. This is the entire statewide intended use plan for both clean water and drinking water. So both sides. So there's 52 projects on one side and I don't know how many projects on the other side, and we have an hour. So the more we do in writing, the better, because who knows whether anyone will get a chance to speak. And Andy Gottlieb from the Association to Preserve Cape Cod also sent a letter. I think I sent that to you guys, which is excellent. So we're doing what we can. But you know, what our Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund Board is trying to get is at least a commitment that for 2025, they will continue multi-year projects and raise the cap so that at least the projects that are partially underway can get finished. And then give us a year to work with them to try and figure out how to fund the second piece. And, you know, Senator Sear presented to you that part of that might be an environmental bond bill that would have a specific earmark for the SRF program so that we could get that funding. So I think that it is not likely that we will get funded for this year. But I could be wrong, and hopefully I am, and we'll, you know, be able to get back in the queue. But if we don't, there is Plan B of 2026 and helping that environmental bond bill go through and hopefully being funded, because they didn't fund us this year. We get a little more priority next year. But we were talking about it today, and I don't want to belabor this too long. When we get to the warrant and the draft warrant, we think, Rich and I think that we should pull wastewater from the May town meeting warrant, because we don't have a funding package to offer. And if for some reason at the end of April, the intended use plan comes out and Eastham is on it, in other words, if we're victorious, then we'd have to have a special town meeting before June 30th to see if we could do it.
Or June 30th.
Yeah, I thought it was December 30th, but I think
Before
it's
June 30th,
Elections have
2025.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, fast.
exactly.
How can we add that to our
Absolutely.
May? Would that be too soon to add a special to our annual? I've seen some towns do that where they have a special within their annual town meeting.
Yeah, but how would that help us if we don't?
We don't have funding.
Well, but no, if we know,
We find out in April, and the
Or-
town meeting's May.
what's,
But we wouldn't find out till the end of April.
so a week,
Like
yeah,
a week
no.
to prepare.
Yeah, it's like usually
We
it
need
comes
at
out
least a
April
month.
15th,
We
but
need like
you
a
know.
month or something.
Oh, they'd be very mad because
Special.
it would be snuck up. Yeah, no,
And
that's not
I
good.
think that's the other issue. Like, we
Right.
feel like we kind of froze like
No,
here in the
no.
headlights, and we had a short timeline
No.
anyway, so
No, you're right. Yeah, special town meeting.
we'd have to do a special, and then we'd have a month just to talk about wastewater.
Should we,
Which
should
isn't a
we,
bad thing.
yeah, should we look to
The only
try
way it
and
goes through.
Right.
put a tentative hold for a special town meeting before June 30th someplace
I
at the
think we can,
school?
over the next month, we can decide that, and then at least if we go to town meeting and we know we have a special, then we could announce it at town meeting and.
Right.
Right, okay.
Jackie, if you don't mind, I know it's late, but it's a good opportunity to mention a couple things on wastewater. Due to the extensive financial planning this board and the finance committee have undertaken over the last several years and the mechanisms we put in place, We fully expected, as a tier 5 community, to get funded and to get the benefits of the SRF program, namely the 0%.
Yeah.
And because of our stewardship of debt drop-off and the short-term rental tax, we had a plan under those parameters where wastewater was negligible impact to the property tax rate. So an expensive project, but not a big hit to the property tax rate. And matter of fact, if we had gotten the same level of subsidy with wastewater that we got with water, as far as debt forgiveness, it probably would have been a net positive. I provided to the capital project committee and I think the finance committee last meeting, a little one pager on different scenarios. And I'll distribute that to the select board for your information and future discussion. Going to again, you need the guaranteed for the ongoing funding for the full project. So just getting 50 million for 1 year doesn't cut it, but if you got at least that at a non-subsidized rate through SRF, it's feasible, but it starts to cost. And then if SRF isn't an option at all, it just truly is not a feasible position. So that's for a future discussion. But I do want people to know that, one of the reasons we've been pushing this and wanting to get this on this upcoming town meeting is the stars had aligned and we thought we had gotten all these pieces in place just to kind of have the rug pulled with the SRF program at the last minute, so.
Will you remind me what it stands for?
State revolving.
Fund.
It's,
loan
oh,
fund.
oh.
So there's that. And I know we in our time at the library, we've had some concerns from residents around the DPW site that have, just recently learned about it because we started doing some press releases and stuff, and they're very concerned about it. So we definitely want to have some time to be able to sit down with them and explain what it is and what it isn't, show them some pictures, do all of that. They may still not want it, but at least it will, help
Engage with
them
people.
understand what it is.
Right. Great. Thank you for doing that and answering all that.
Suzanne, any other questions?
No, just the reminder that we're having the public info session at the
Wednesday.
library on
Wednesday.
Wednesday for the zoning.
Yeah. 2 sessions.
Right.
Sessions.
Childcare
Yeah.
provided.
Yeah, and I think that one's, you've noticed I've been going on Facebook a couple of times with that because people seem to think that we're building something.
Right.
This is just to change the zoning to allow density in that area, whether it's through private development or through public housing development. We're not building anything. It's not going to, this change in zoning is not going to cost you any money, and it may really help us with economic development in the future.
All right. Jerry,
I move we adjourn. Second.
all in favor?
Hi.
We are adjourned.